I'm Maggie. I'm a licensed clinical psychotherapist with degrees in psychology, theology, and marriage and family therapy, a national certification in dialectical behavioral therapy, and a national certification in integrative mental health. In this video, I'm not looking to diagnose anyone. I'm only willing to offer insight into situations like these. All right, let's talk about it. The key to all sacred scripture found in our consciousness time zone is, I know that my Redeemer liveth. So this is the collective Redeemer, key 1-1-7, in the Book of Knowledge, the Keys of Enoch, right? So here we are. My Redeemer liveth. So we're going to use the Disney's TVA and other tools and concepts for making her talks, the Book of Knowledge, the Keys of Enoch, his excessively esoteric work, not soteric, as well as critiquing his premise and giving some guidance. So let's say hi to some folks real quick. So Auntie is here first, my favorite Auntie. She says hi. Leon is here. What's up? Adric is here. Hashtag Pivot Point Wednesday. And Adrian says, let's go. Reminder, this is the best live tribe on YouTube. So for all of you watching from the clouds, please, you are more than welcome to say hello. Okay, so the full text reading of this key 1-1-7 is available on my channel. I put it up on Monday. So if you want to read the whole thing and decide for yourself, you are more than welcome to do that. So there's a lot of highlights I want to read on this one today because the red flags abound. Okay, so let's get going. All right, so verse 1. Enoch explained to me, Jacob, how the scriptures of light are given in terms of the redemption of a given species. One cannot think of coming to the Father without the redemptive energies of the Messiah. The plan of salvation revealed to lead man through his consciousness time zone so that he can connect his godhood with the pluralistic kingdoms of light. Okay, so that's his summary of this key. All right, so he goes through and he marks some of these verses with like infinity 1 infinity, infinity 2 infinity, infinity 3 infinity. So you'll hear that sometimes. So hi Eddie, thank you for being here. So in verse 6 he says infinity 1 infinity. The faith of Israel reborn is to experience all the suffering and redemptions of human consciousness absorbed into all the dimensions of the love-creating process. So all I hear in that is benevolent abuse, right? Like the faith of Israel reborn is to experience all the suffering, and that's part of love-creating process. So I knew it was kind of coming, right? It's gaslighting mixed with covert manipulation, right? Like this is tough love, or I'm doing this because I care, or you'll thank me later, or someone has to teach you, kind of salvation through suffering. I get to abuse you and you'll be saved. It's weird. It distorts reality. It's like saying, oh, it's not an ethnic cleansing. It's not a genocide. It's God's plan, right? So it distorts reality. B, it justifies cruelty. Like you hurt me first, so now I get to hurt you, right? Like humans are sinners, and so now I get to abuse them. C, it avoids accountability. Like it's kind of like that, why are you hitting yourself? When you're making somebody hit themselves. And D, it enforces control. Like it's all part of this greater plan. All this suffering and pain and all of this is all part of the plan, right? It is coercive control is what it is. And it's kind of this moral inversion, right? Like Why is it that the God of the Old Testament can kill so many people, but you can't, right? Like the count, I believe it is in the Old Testament that the God, Yahweh of the Old Testament kills roughly 2 million people, but thou shalt not kill, right? Because when he does it, it's all part of the plan. It's out of love, right? It's out of the love creating process. Hi, Luke. Thanks for being here. Luke says, protests in every country of the world. Stop bombing kids. Protests in Israel. We should have the right to rape non-Jews. It's not rape if they're not Jews. Okay. Let's keep going. All right. Your own body universe functions as part of the collective Messiah through your Gematrian body of light. Your inner body of light that is continually being perfected by your Christ Overself. So let's talk about the Overself. There's a theory of the Overself, okay? And he's brought up Overself a couple times. Essentially, the theory of the Overself is that the real you still exists on the other side. So energetically, the perfect you is over there, and you've concentrated some energy, through focus and intention into matter. So it's almost like when you put your hand in a glove, it's like your Overself is the meat sack that you're in is like a puppet, and your Overself is trying to make it work. But in being in this place, we get things like as a side effect of material existence, you get things like ego and emotions and things like that. So it makes it harder for your Overself. In the theory of the Overself, there's another theory that the Overself has multiple selves, that it's working at any given time so that it can experience as many things as possible. That kind of has to do with that fractalization of God, that fractal theory, that God sort of broke himself in many pieces to be able to experience himself in all ways doing things. So now it's talking about you're being perfected by your Christ Overself. Okay. Hi, Compassionate and Callous. Oh, thanks for being here. So now what he's talking about is we're handing ourselves to a different Oversoul or a different Overself, and away from our own personal Overself. We're giving ourselves away. Why would we do that, right? Because the theory of the Overself or the Oversoul is that energetic self that we are is perfect already, and it struggles. I don't know why we would give ourselves, but I will say this: many Christians, especially dispensationalists, believe that the modern state of Israel must be restored and it must thrive for biblical prophecy to be fulfilled. And I think a lot of what her talk is talking about is dispensationalism. So this includes, so for prophecy to be fulfilled, this is what a lot of Christians believe. So this includes the return of Jesus, a final battle, the Armageddon, right? Hi, JB Designs. Thanks for being here. Oh, so I'm sorry. Return of Jesus, final battle, which is Armageddon, and the ushering in of God's kingdom on earth. This is this dispensationalist view. I don't know why my throat keeps getting froggy. So this starts with, though, Israel, right? So it's based on Israel and the Christians being the chosen people, right? This is the Christians' view. The Jews don't believe that Christians are the chosen people. Not in any way. They're still the Goyim. They're Goya. They're still not human. It doesn't matter. look at how the Jews in Israel treat the Christians in Israel, right? But this is what Christians believe. So Israel and Christians are being the chosen people, and because they're chosen, they have a separate plan at the end times. So their loving, benevolent God will kill billions of people, but will spare them. That's how this loving, benevolent God works. Because he's already killed millions, he'll kill billions, and it's fine. So, yes, type shit. Yes. So here's the checklist. Okay, here's the checklist of dispensationalists. Because the more I read this book of knowledge, the more I think it's a playbook for the dispensationalists, and maybe it'll give us a little insight into what are you trying to do. So here's the checklist. Israel must be reestablished. Okay, check. That's done. The Jewish people must return to the land. So this is why they don't want African Hebrews there, because this is for the Jewish people. Because if you're in Israel, you're saved. Because remember, it's Israel and the Christians are saved at the end time. Okay, Israel is like home base. It's like the safe spot. So next, right? Okay, so they're already working for the return, right? What's that called? Aliyah, something like that, where the Jewish people return to a place they never came from. But so they're working on that one. Then a third temple will be rebuilt. They're calling it rebuilt. A third temple will be rebuilt in Jerusalem. So keep a watch on this, because I think the Catholics are going to have something to do with this. And if you've been watching my other videos, you will know why the Catholics are going to help them. So keep a watch on this, because the Roman Catholic Church is a landowner in Jerusalem, and they own some buildings. So I think the Catholic Church will have something to do with this third temple being rebuilt. And I think it'll be under the guise of Abrahamic temple, right? It'll be a threefold temple for the Abrahamic religions. This is the guess. This is my supposition, but just watch. And if it happens, I'll be as shocked as you guys. Okay, so watch for that one. Next on the checklist is the Antichrist will make a 7-year peace treaty with Israel, then break it halfway through. So break it after 3.5 years. So that's the original dispensationalist checklist. Now they've already changed that last one a little bit, and we'll get into it in just a second. Because I'm not saying that any of these people are actually an antichrist or that any of this is actually happening, but I think they're forcing it, right? They're trying to manufacture Armageddon. Like, okay, Trump and Kushner unveiled the deal of the century in 2019. Okay, if you guys remember that. It was ultimately rejected by Palestine. It was supposed to be between Israel and Palestine, called the deal of the century. It was rejected. Thank you, Adrian. Aliyah. Yeah. And I'm probably not pronouncing that right because I'm saying it like a name. Aliyah. Maybe Aliyah. I don't know if I'm saying it right. But anyway, so the deal of the century was rejected by Palestine. And it totally focused on Jerusalem. Okay. Again, remember, the third temple has to be built in Jerusalem. So, and again, the Vatican owns land and buildings in Jerusalem. So now, fast forward to now, that was 2019, Trump has unveiled the Peace to Prosperity plan. So Christian Zionists believe this is the setup for the 7-year peace treaty. Now, none of them think that Trump is the Antichrist, but that was the original dispensationalist view, okay? So what they're now saying is that Trump's been dubbed Cyrus. They're calling him Cyrus because Cyrus was a non-Jewish ruler fulfilling prophecy by helping Israel in the Bible. Cyrus let the Jews return to rebuild the temple in the Bible. So they're dubbing Trump now Cyrus, not the Antichrist, because they think this is how we're going to get the 7-year peace treaty that's broken in 3.5 years. So evangelical leaders say that Trump is anointed by God to set the end times events in motion. These are millions of people, guys. These are millions of people who are talking like this. Okay. So then, as Trump is doing all this, we have the Abraham Accords going on, which is the Abrahamic religions coming together. And the Abraham Accords followed that, and it was seen as further proof of the bringing together of many nations. So it was seen as fulfilling prophecy. This is what people are believing. And Trump's still pushing it so that it can hurry up and get broken in 3.5 years. So they're doing the checklist. Okay. So they all are preparing for this too. And they will force this fake end times. I mean, how would I know? I'm not a god. I don't know. Maybe it is end times. I don't know. But it just seems very forced. It seems like, you're doing too much here. It seems fake. Like it's a means to an end to make people think that we are in the end times or that Armageddon is happening. Okay. It seems to me it's a way to get more control, or to maintain control, or to move us into a theocracy. I don't know. But there's been a lot more work recently on the governmental mountain bunkers. Like Biden was doing a lot of work on the bunkers. A lot of work is still like updating everything in the bunkers, the mountain bunkers, the governmental ones. And there's still work being done to get everything up to speed. The Eri project is selling luxury bunkers to the ultra wealthy. They're going for $300 million each. Zuckerberg is building a 5,000 square foot underground bunker in Hawaii. I wonder why Hawaii burned. Atlas Survival Shelters has seen a huge increase in demand since 2020. So the end of 2019 is when Trump first tried to do this deal. Starting in 2020, these survival shelters, people are putting in everywhere. Estonia is building 600 new bunkers. Switzerland is moving all of its data to its underground bunkers. Yes, Dune shit and Fallout game. Yes. Yes. Like, whether this is happening or not, they're making it happen. Like, it is happening, guys. We have to keep this into consideration. So that's why, as I'm reading these things and I'm seeing stuff happen in real time, I'm like, holy shit, this is the dispensationalist playbook. This is what they think they're going to do to maintain control, and like this final brainwash, final indoctrination game that they're doing. They want to nuke the world. Maybe that's how they make it look like Armageddon, right? Like they will pick the chosen people, right? And then they'll set off these nukes and make it seem like it's God. Maybe it's Project Bluebeam. I don't know what they're doing. JB Design says Atlas is like Vault Tech from the Fallout games. Oh, wow. I didn't know that. Okay, so let's keep going with some of the stuff that they're saying. Okay, so verse 17, Infinity 3 Infinity. The faith of Israel reborn is to participate in the purpose of the human side of life, not only in the continuation of the species, but in the continual glorification of the species through the creative acts of love. To redeem yourself means to actually reprogram yourself. I mean, generally, I don't necessarily hate if somebody says you got to reprogram yourself because, so much indoctrination and things that we go through. But in this one, I'm a little concerned. So So this is what it sounds like to me. Propagate, right? Keep the species going, whatever. And he never says species. He says species, no S. So it's a specific species. And you know which one I think it is that they're trying to propagate. I mean, if you've watched any of my videos, you know exactly which humans, which hominids they're trying to propagate. So propagate, keep the species going, save the bloodline, right? And participate in moving away from your humanness so that you can be reprogrammed, right? So that these specific people can say, well, that's not human, this is human, right? Because we've reprogrammed the humans to tell you what human is. You fashion says, right. Right. Okay, so Infinity 5 Infinity. The faith of Israel reborn is the fulfillment of prophecy. There it is. There it is. That this is them trying to create this prophecy, is trying to fulfill this prophecy, is trying to force Abrahamic Yahwism into being a thing, because state sanctioned religion is control. This is what they've always used. Always. Okay, let's keep going. Sorry, I get sidetracked. Okay, Infinity 10 Infinity. The faith of Israel reborn is in the personal commitment to Yahweh, as revealed through his prophets in every age and in every eye which sees into the world to come. Now, if any of you watched my Yahweh show, you know that is BS. It's BS, right? So, where's that one? Okay, so that what it reminds me of when it says is in the personal commitment to Yahweh as revealed through his prophets in every age and every eye, which sees into the world to come, blah, 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 blah. It reminds me of contracts that include phrases like throughout the known universe and for all time in perpetuity. This is like, now you're going to do this contract. Like your soul, it sounds like selling your soul, right? Like, you have to agree to be Yahweh's for all of time, through all of eternity, in every plane, which is a little creepy. Compassionate says, so will this be the theology of transhumanism? I'm not sure. Let me look something up, because I don't want to answer without knowing exactly something. So I never want to give false information ever. Oh, okay, yeah. Okay. I wanted to make sure I was understanding transhumanism because I'm a transpersonal psychologist. So it was like, let me make sure, and I'm humanist. So, I wanted to make sure I understood. So transhumanism is more like transcending your humanness, like superhuman, supra-human, extra-human type, the technocrats. Oh, thank you, compassionate. Yes. Okay. So I wanted to make sure I had that right. It might be the theology of transhumanism, especially when you look at the chosen people. You know what I mean? And it's like, how do they look at the rest of us? The rest of us are like the worker bees, the slaves to society, the less than, the drones, So I could almost see it almost like the story of the Anunnaki, where they had the Anunnaki had the Ajiji, who were their workers and who were like the B'nai Elohim is what we would call them, like the sons of the gods, but they were a little less than, so they were the workers for the gods, and they were getting tired. And so they were like, well, we're getting tired. Can you make something else? And so, yeah, or Enki creates humanity to help with the work. And that's kind of what it makes me think of, is that like the Ajiji are the chosen ones, right? So that's Israel, and the Christians are the chosen ones. And then everybody, all the humans, just have to do their bidding, and like drones, they don't get to be humans anymore. So, whew, but so I was just talking about that contract. Okay. So throughout the known universe for all time, in perpetuity, selling your soul. Okay. Infinity 12, infinity. The faith of Israel reborn is humbleness before the great wisdom of the Torah, or whose tree of life forms the preparation for the Kabbalah. Hold up. The faith of Israel reborn is humbleness before the great wisdom of the Torah, or whose tree of life. Wait a minute. The tree of life is not a Christian, nor Jewish, nor Islamic concept. It was taken from pagans. It was the great mother in ancient teachings, and it was rebranded to the Holy Spirit. But even before that, it was a concept in ancient Sumer. We're talking 8,000 years ago. It was a concept in ancient Sumer from the Anunnaki, the tree of life. So this sounds more like some rebranding and some stealing stuff, right? Because the tree of life they never wanted that. They tore down all the Asherah temples and the Asherah trees, and they did all of that. JB Design says, isn't the tree of life Nordic? The tree of life kind of evolved across pagan systems where it wasn't bastardized. So by the time it reaches the Nordic people, there is a tree of life. The Druids followed a tree of life. There is a tree of life in ancient Sumer. There's a tree of life in Ethiopia. So there's a lot of these, what we would consider pagan religions that maintained that tree of life theology as it came out of ancient Sumer. So the first time we ever hear about it, though, the tree of life is in the I don't think it's the Atrahasis. I never say that one right. I think it's in the Enuma Elish. That's the first time we hear. I'm not positive. Don't quote me on that one. But the first time we hear about the tree of life is like 6,000 to 8,000 years ago with the Anunnaki. This is well before the Canaanites, well before Israel, well before any of that. Way before that. That's even before the rise of Kemet. So this sounds more like stealing and rebranding yet again. JB Design says, so the small hats are ultimately using pseudo-religion and the symbology of destiny to justify bringing about the apocalypse and disguising it as a judgment from a higher power. That's it, JB Designs, you got it. That is like the summary. But it's not just the small hats. You have to remember, a lot of Christians are believing the same thing, right? Think about who, if you didn't see my Neanderthal show, you may want to watch it, because these powers that be all genetically, so I give receipts in there, they all genetically are the same species. And so they utilize Abrahamic religions as a means of control. So it's not just the small hats, it's the powers that be are ultimately using pseudo-religion and the symbology of destiny to justify bringing about the apocalypse and disguising it as a judgment from a higher power. They are doing that. Yeah. So Adrian just said that the small hats and their evangelical proxies bolstered by tech billionaires. Yes, because the prosperity gospel, right? And so we are worshiping billionaires as if they are demigods at this point. And so we're setting ourselves up to be ruled by technocrats, because the technocrats will come in and save us during the apocalypse with their technology. And since we worship them like demigods, we will give ourselves over to being saved. Oh, yeah. Yeah. It is a collaboration of epic proportions. You are so right. Okay, let's keep going. Therefore, at the beginning of each new cycle of creation, the greater plan is required to be reset in motion once again. Oh my God. If you guys don't, there's the great resets. Okay. There is a lot of information out there, and it runs the gamut from the great mud flood to the younger Dryas. If you guys don't know about any of them, it's interesting. The first person to look up is Graham Hancock. Okay. Graham Hancock talks about cyclical cataclysms. Now, he goes to all these different sites, right? He's not just talking about something behind a mic on YouTube, right? He talks about, he talks about these cyclical cataclysms that are talked about in all these ancient sites. And what he discovered is that this cataclysm happens about every 11,800 years. So think, so at one point in time, Central and Northern Africa was lush, right? Lush. And there was a huge civilization in where the desert. Oh, I've got so many things going in my mind right now that I want to say. I'm sorry. Where the desert is. But a huge tsunami came, like not just some little podunk tidal wave. A huge tsunami came and buried it, right? And so it dumped all the sand, right? The tsunami, because it's pulling all the sand up off the ocean floor. And then all of that seawater kills off vegetation. And so then we end up with this very sandy desert that's going on. But they've been uncovering, and they think it's that it was the kingdom was ruled by a man named Atlas. And so we're kind of looking at, is that the actual Atlantis that went into the sea, right? The big tsunami buries it goes into the sea. So that's interesting. But Graham Hancock, cyclical cataclysms about every 11,800 years. Now, what he has calculated is that we're due for one. We're due. And scientists are out, and I mean, mainstream scientists, NASA, everybody is saying, yeah, the poles are shifting, and this really only happens about every 12,000 years. That those poles shifting may be what lead us into a cataclysm. The difficulty is every time we go through this 11,800 year cataclysm, every time we're kind of reset, it seems like we lose knowledge of the previous civilizations. Now, again, we didn't necessarily, as far as I know, have the internet and telephones and all that. So we maybe just didn't know. But in all of these stories, there's always somebody who shows up to help rebuild. There's always that person. There's the story of Noah, but Noah doesn't help anybody rebuild anything. In all of these other stories, it's somebody who comes and brings technology to get everybody back up and going again. So that's interesting there. Fourth industrial wave. You got it. Here's the playbook. Okay, next one. You are to recognize that your mind forms the filament or temporal membrane for the direct encoding of the fire letters, the wisdom of light upon membrane circuits. For you are a biotransducer subsystem for higher intelligence to indwell within you. Why does that kind of sound like we're going to possess you? But it also sort of sounds like they've been talking about how they're putting this powder in the air where they can use humans to like bolster a Wi-Fi system or something. Like, it makes me think of that too. Like, are we really batteries in the Matrix? Is this really what we're doing now? Like, are you just admitting that we're batteries and you're just like using us for all this kind of stuff? Hi, Spain Man. Okay, so the next one. And these star programs of creation are carefully watched and harvested. Wait, what? These star programs of creation are carefully watched and harvested in due season. So you just said we're like biotransducer systems, batteries, or whatever antennas you're going to use us. And now you're saying we're going to be harvested. This is getting a little creepy. Just getting a little creepy. So then it says, may the Etz, the Aleph and Tav, the beginning and the end, be written upon your forehead, you who are the body of Christ. Wasn't there something in Revelations about something being written on the forehead? And it didn't seem like it was that we were supposed to be doing that. So I got questions about, you think we're batteries and you're going to harvest us and, you're going to, like the Buzz Lightyear show, Andy wrote his name on the foot. We're just going to have the God's name written on our forehead. Oh, a transducer is a speaker. A biotransducer. So they're going to speak through us? I don't know. But use our bodies in some way, a bio something, right? And then we get harvested. Compassionate says, this sounds like an ideology designed to make me more comfortable with merging with technology or becoming a battery or a human Wi-Fi router. It does, doesn't it? Like, because that's what God wants you to do. It's that benevolent abuse. You have to let us use your body because that means you're good and God loves you. Yeah, JB Designs says, now that you say that, have they specified whether or not this is at the behest of another power, maybe not of this world? That sounded awfully like abduction. Yeah, so all of these keys are based upon Enoch, Melchizedek, and the Ophanim came to visit this Hertalk guy at the behest of the Ancient of Days, which they also call Yahweh, to give him these keys, to impart this knowledge on him about what's coming, the cataclysm that's coming. Yeah. Leanne says we are batteries, yes. Or Wi-Fi routers. I don't, to use it, or speakers, to use this in some way. Now I'm just having this vision of like a bunch of people standing around with their mouths open and their eyes glazed over, right? It's almost like a bullhorn where this voice is just coming out and your mouth is just big. Like, this is a scary movie is what I'm thinking. So if we talk about the TVA, if we use, because I went through a lot of verses, so I don't want to really harp on it because I hit on a lot of the stuff as we went. But to use Disney's TVA, right? We have a choice, just like Loki had a choice, right? Serve the system or become a god, right? Little g God, become a god. Loki obeys the hierarchy for all time, always. This is always what he's done at first. And then Sylvie destroys the hierarchy by this created chaos. Okay? The final Loki transcends the hierarchy. He holds time without ruling it. He's not controlling it. He's giving it, he's a lattice for which to hold it. So true divinity is beyond this administration that they're talking about. If you as a person need an external force to make you act good or to ensure that you act good, then are you in fact good? It's always a question I have. If it doesn't intrinsically come from you, if you need all these rules from God and all this threat of all this disastrous stuff, death and pain and struggle and genocide and all this, if you require the rules and the threat, then are you in fact good? Ethical question. If we look at the temporal loom's inevitable collapse in the TVA, that proves that no system can mechanize divine will. You can't control it. You can't control all of this, okay? Real cosmic laws are alive and they flow. And even the Kabbalah says that divine light breaks containment. And all of this, and Christianity, and all this apocalypse stuff, and all the rules, and all the dogma, and all the hierarchies just sounds like containment. So this week, Spainman says, despite all my rage, I'm still just a double A. Aw, you're not even a 9-volt? A D battery? Come on. You can do it. So this week, I want you guys to check on whatever sacred rules you've been told, whether it be the 10 Commandments or any other sacred law, right? Whether it be what we are told to value in ourselves and other people, who we are told to deify, and who we are told to demonize. Because if we start to question who we're supposed to be deifying, then we really have to question who we were told to demonize, right? So check on those sacred rules in your life and think about who benefits from that rule. Who really benefits from that rule? And if it's not you benefiting from that rule, it may be time to kind of just delete that rule from your base programming. Compassionate said, all an elaborate ruse to trick people into becoming batteries. Or Wi-Fi routers, don't leave it out. There's multiple options. There's a lot of different people. We can do a lot of things. Our brains are great circuit boards. They can really be used for stuff. As long as we get rid of that pesky ethical reasoning in humanity, because that really gets in the way of the powers that be being able to utilize us for what they want to utilize us for. So we got to get rid of that and hand it all over to Yahweh. Right? Give ourselves to Yahweh for all of time in perpetuity, in the known and unknown universe. Yeah. Okay. Now, this Sunday is going to be part 2 of the Dominion series, and then we're going to go into bloodlines. So as much as you guys heard me talk about the Neanderthal bloodlines, we are going to get deeper into the 5 bloodlines of humans. So, and I hope to offer just as many receipts as I did with the Neanderthals, and showing that the Neanderthals are the powers that be today. And that humans, the human hominids, the Homo sapiens, are a different genetic line. Compassionate says, do you think they accounted for everyday people like us discussing these ideas, though? I think, yes, I do think that because there's always heretics, right? Um, and heretics always questioned the powers that be, the dogma of the church, right? And so there's always been heretics. Now we had the Inquisition that did a lot to get rid of heretics. We had the witch trials in England, and then again, in North America that got rid of a lot of heretics. We had St. Patrick go into Ireland and kill a lot of people under the guise of driving snakes out, right? But he killed the whole tribe of African people, the Akans, and drove all the Druids out. So they have, they've utilized ways, and I think nowadays, if they're going to manufacture Armageddon, then number one, they can kill off a lot of people. And then number two, you will have people that are just so scared that even though they know better, that they'll still go along with it because they're scared, right? Or that maybe they have little kids and they're like, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, I got to do whatever to keep these kids alive. You know what I mean? And so I don't think they give it much credence at all. Yeah, gosh, that's right. Okay, so hopefully this Sunday, you all can be there for the part 2 of Dominion, because we're going to go into even more how the powers that be utilize these Abrahamic religions. And of course, it's attached to that Neanderthal. All of these things play into each other. And funny enough, now the Book of Knowledge is now playing into this same storyline and adding more proof to these same things. Because my hope is we catch enough of it ahead of time that we don't fall for the ruse, that we can figure out ways to be self-sufficient and work in community with one another, us Homo sapiens. They've done everything they can to divide all of us in every way possible they think they can. And there's a lot of people, of whatever species, there's a lot of people who believe the hype and they play into it. And it's unfortunate. But my hope is that we figure it out enough ahead of time that we just go, nah, it's all bullcrap. That's just my hope. Adrian says, yeah, it's always rooted in human sacrifice. Right. And if you watched, Dominion, that is the play. Always human sacrifice. Always. The powers that be never stopped sacrificing humans. Just call it something different. And compassion says, hopefully. Yeah. Hopefully. So hopefully you guys can be with me on Sunday, and then next Wednesday we'll do another key. Again, I've already looked at it. Tons of red flags again. So hopefully you can be here for that. Shout out to the replay gang. Shout out to the best live tribe on YouTube. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. I'm going to show you a picture of my dog. Please like the video if you haven't already. It really helps the algorithm to know what kind of things you like. Share where you think it's appropriate, especially to someone who you think needs to hear it. And don't forget to check out some of the wilder Pivot Point Wednesday shows. And last, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, especially if you want to break down complex concepts that make the esoteric not so teric, helping you on your journey to become your most authentic self. By subscribing, you'll join a community that thrives on curiosity and growth, and you'll never miss out on insights and some wild discussions. Let's uncover the universe together.